streaming problem. We should be good now. No more interruptions. I have a favor for everyone who's watching this right now. I've been putting Aaron through some turmoil trying to get this to work. So we'll cover that later. But Aaron, please continue with your thoughts. And I think we're on a very good topic of politics. Right.
So the question was, you asked something about, how can we include people with disabilities? And I was just saying before the break there that it's easier said than done. We can say we need to include people and we can do these activities, but here we are. I was just saying that podcasting can be a great activity for blind people, depending on who you are, or depending on who you are, it could be a horrible activity. But either way, if you love podcasting, get into podcasting. If you love listening to podcasts, then listen. There are so many great podcasts on the market, and know that my podcast, the only promise I can make are promises I'm going to keep, which is that Aaron's Opinion is the most open podcast to allowing guests to come onto my podcast and talk about what's on their mind. So, most of my guests have been blind, but of course I welcome you, welcome everybody in the chat, welcome sighted people, welcome the world. If you have a story, I'm ready. My podcast is ready for you to come onto my channel and have a great time. All right. So how's the chat going over there?
Well, there are 5 people in here now. I think we got some of the former followers back in here. So I'm going to go ahead and leave a pin a comment to the top of the Facebook, asking for comments and questions. Let's get back to the very beginning of this. Let's start the conversation over. How are you doing, Aaron? How's your week been? How are you dealing with everything?
Well, I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. The week, it's been an interesting week. It's been a week, a very, very, very interesting week. I'm doing fine. Work's going great. Podcast is going great, and all of that. And how are you?
I'm doing good. I think there's more optimism in my life that I'm trying to integrate. And I think everyone who's watching this can probably agree that enough is enough with the negativity. So I'm just going to even leave that alone. So things I'm looking forward to so far at this point in time on Sunday, November 8th, 2020. The year's almost over. I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be great. No more 2020, which I'm looking forward to. I think Christmas is going to be awesome because Santa Claus is probably going to be in town. That's what I hear. And honestly, I'm looking forward to Thanksgiving to be with Shelly's family, and then Christmas, of course, getting together with family and friends there in Nashville. So that's what I'm looking forward to right now. How about anybody who's watching? What's everyone else looking forward to?
Well, so I'm looking forward to getting into next year and maybe doing some traveling and getting out a little bit more and doing stuff like that. So,
what's the
and
what's
of course
what? No, you go ahead. Of course, what?
And of course, continuing to upload on my channel as much as I possibly can, keeping up with the uploads, doing more interesting content for you guys at home. But yes, your question, what's the most you're saying?
Let's retract that. I got to give you props, ladies and gentlemen. This guy over here cranks out podcasts like you would not believe. Aaron, we were talking earlier. How many podcasts have you done this year alone?
Guys, I think I've been podcasting for over a year. My show has gone through a couple of phases. I think in total, I've uploaded over 200 episodes for you, and which gives me a good chance to mention, if you have any questions about something that I might have recorded last year, come up to me and say, hey, Aaron, I remember that episode about, ABC, or something like that. I'd be more than happy to go find it for you in the archive of either on YouTube or iTunes or wherever it might be. But yes.
Okay. I think one of the most interesting podcasts I've listened to so far of yours was with the dynamic that a young lady was involved with when it comes to work. So that's one of the issues that I'd love to talk with you about. So being a blind person, what's it like trying to find a job?
Sure. So Thanks. So I'll tell you a little bit more about my background. So I hold a bachelor's degree in international relations. And currently, so what happened was after I graduated from university, I needed to find work, right? And I discovered that I don't have the connections. I didn't have, and I do not have the connections to be in the foreign service. So I needed to kind of regroup and really figure out what I wanted to do in life. And then this idea kind of came into my head one day. It was probably winter of 2015.
Okay.
And I was home and I was just trying to recover from university, just trying to get over the experience, which it was. And I thought,
topic we
look,
should cover.
I'm sure, but it all is connected here. So I was looking into what I want to do, and I realized that a lot of people around the world want to learn English. So I was doing some research about different ways to teach English, and I had a lot of different experiences along the way. But of course, the best experience is the experience I'm doing right now to this very day. So from 2015 to now, I've been working for Company X, as I like to call it. Company can teach English online. Now, you asked, what is it like for blind people trying to find work and find employment? It's not good. There is profound discrimination. In my opinion, there's profound discrimination. In my opinion, employers are either genuinely misinformed or of the kind of, sometimes people have people on their podcast. Sometimes people have not on their podcast. Let me rephrase it. Sometimes people, reach out to people with disabilities. I forget if it was you who said it to me, but at some point someone said that they were concerned that there's a lot of these nonprofits or charitable organizations or companies too that reach out to people with disabilities. And, let me just tell you, just because you're blind and just because a company reaches out to you and says, hey, man, you want a job? That doesn't mean it's a good life choice for you. And my point is that, in my opinion, I think there have been many cases around the country where companies have maybe, taken advantage of someone's disability to put them up as sort of a prop kind of, or something.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I'm not sure the exact word, but I understand the concept of what you're saying. Like, look at us, we're good people.
I forget.
This is, we're helping a disabled person out, but they don't actually value you for your work or who you are. They label you as disabled versus as Aaron Richmond.
Correct. And that may or may not have happened to me. That's beside the point. But the point, the takeaway, the take home point here is that this happens to my fear, Bobby, is that this is happening to a lot of people with disabilities are becoming taken advantage of all over the country. And I'm not hearing about it because they aren't coming to Aaron's Opinion and telling me. Now, I might in the end find out about it, but they aren't telling me about it. So it's really important to make a note of these things when they happen. Warn your friends. Don't work for that company if they're going to take advantage of you, and only invest your time in companies that value you for who you are and the contribution that you can make. And that's a critical point that's overlooked.
You know what? We should have a new segment of the Blue Falcon podcast where we have an idea. And maybe I'll make a list of actionable items. And if somebody wants to take this idea and run with it, have at it. I'm sure you, Aaron, as a podcaster, with all the YouTube channel things you have going on in your channel, the idea of people coming to you with their ideas and how you should run your stuff, you're overwhelmed with ideas all the time, probably.
Actually, people... So I might be slightly misunderstanding, but people do not come to me and tell me. People have never come to me and given me much suggestions how I should or shouldn't run Aaron's Opinion.
Oh wow! Completely different experience over here.
Oh really? People come to you and tell you how to run Blue Falcon?
Oh man! And the irony of the name Blue Falcon and then people coming.
We know about that. We know about that. But so really, people come to you and tell you how to run your podcast?
Oh, since day one, which is great. No, I love the suggestions. I love the input.
Well, who are they? Well, to some extent, but who are they to tell you how to run your podcast? Your show is your show. My show is my show.
Well, it's along the same lines of entrepreneurship or someone who's running their own business, right? Everyone has an idea when they're not the ones who have to follow through with it.
Right. That's the problem. Right. That's exactly the problem. And anyone can have an idea, but what I want to see is I want to see more follow through, which is why I practice follow through in my episodes and on my podcast, because I believe in follow through. Right.
Yeah, I guess my initials are BS, so I guess some people naturally want to come talk BS with me. No, I'm kidding. I appreciate everyone's support and everyone having suggestions. Speaking of follow through, hey Kyle Buckner. I hope you follow through with you coming on the podcast again soon. It's a buddy of mine from high school. He always he flakes on me, but it's a running joke. So back to what I was saying, we're gonna have an idea board. My idea, which I'll take full credit of being a Blue Falcon on it, is a website where disabled people can access and have ratings for different companies and their experiences. Would that be beneficial?
I don't know. It's your idea. I don't know.
Well, I mean, as a disabled person, like what you were saying, like you.
Okay. All right. So no, I see. I follow. I think I follow what you're saying. To what is to what is the consequence? People post, their ratings and their experiences, kind of like a glass door, but for people's experiences who are disabled with companies, kind of like that. Do you mean like kind of creating your own version of Glassdoor?
Right. Or somebody, not me. I'm saying I think that would be great to address the issue that you just mentioned. Right.
Right. I mean, I appreciate it. I'm not sure that's not correcting. That's not correcting the problem. In my estimation, that's not correcting the problem. I appreciate it. I think that what I'm saying is, I think that when people have bad experiences and have these types of experiences that we should really know about. And I don't mean for people to come to my show and complain. Complaining doesn't do any good.
Right.
I mean, when you have problem solving, when you have a really, really serious issue where an employer truly does something egregious to you that needs to be documented, basically, I'm open to people coming to me and speaking up about it, because in my life I've learned that it's important to know when to speak up, and it's important to learn when not to speak up too. So it goes both ways. You have to pick and choose your battles in life, right? So I think that if people, people can come to my podcast and have conversations with me, I'm open to that. Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Speaking of your podcast, and I'm still putting that idea on the idea board, whether you like it or not, Aaron. But someone had a question for you.
Sure.
Aaron, which one of your podcasts was your favorite and why? Besides mine, but the other ones you have, which one was your favorite and why?
All of them. I would say on one hand, all of them, because I learned something different from each one. Each one was a different guest. I mean, some of the stories that I interviewed a retired prison guard, a correctional officer who's blind now. Some of the stories he was telling, whew, baby, really? Strap yourself in and pour some scotch and take a seat. There's some stories there. There's some that is a crazy, being a prison correctional officer. That is crazy. That is a crazy job.
Yes, yes it is.
That was, and he's an incredibly kind person. So that was an interesting one. That was material. But then again, you hear a lot of other interesting stories, even from some of the conversations I've had with people from, Gambia and Tunisia and Uganda, where I'm noticing that people are living in a very similar life, and that people all over the world are having a lot of the same concerns and a lot of the same challenges, that was an interesting one. Let's see.
Well, how many countries do
Nepal,
you
I
have so
spoke to.
far?
I'm not keeping count. I admit. You said that I should. I know. You said I should keep count. I should have a map thing. I kind of do. I have a globe, but I can't reach it, so I can't keep count. Right. So then I don't know. Quite a few countries from around the world. A lot of my listeners are from Jamaica and the surrounding Caribbean. That was one of the first contacts I made when I really dove into podcasting. I was really speaking a lot with some of the blind people from that region of the world, Jamaica, and I was doing a lot of recording with them, and they were very vocal. So I think a lot of my listeners are from that part of the world. Then, of course, then the other mysterious thing is I have listeners from countries that I've never had a guest from. Like I've never had a guest from Singapore, but someone from Singapore listens. I've never had a guest from Russia. Well, I don't think I've interviewed anyone from Russia, but then I have Russians who listen, Turkey. I don't know, like, hi, hello, who are you? Who are you? I don't know who you are, but thank you for listening. It's really cool.
How do you track that? Where people listen from? How do you track that?
Well, as a matter of fact, Anchor has just updated their analytic tool to some new qualification. Forgot what it's called. Like I forget. Some new standard, some new industry standard where it's like fully like the highest standard in the entire industry, and that's what I look on that chart. I can also look on YouTube too, and see the percentages of countries. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I use Libsyn, so I need to grab my phone.
Mm-hmm.
I'm expecting a very important phone call, so I'm kidding.
Good.
No, so I'll use Libsyn, Libsyn, for my podcast, the audio versions, and it's really interesting to see which states people listen and which cities. Oddly enough, I've a large percentage of my listeners from San Francisco, which I don't know anybody. I don't think I know anybody who lives in San Francisco. I guess I know 2 people, but not. There's probably 40 downloads.
Yeah.
A month from San Francisco, which is great. So you can tell it catches fire in these places all over the country. And I think I'm only missing 4 or 5 states before I have a whole like a map behind you, filled out with somebody listening from each state. That's my goal.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think too that the episodes are shared around the world and kind of trickle through social media. So that's how we get to places where we don't necessarily know anyone. That's how it gets there, through sharing and through algorithms. It kind of trickles, kind of sneaks around that way, I think. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What's your favorite way to watch podcasts that you consume? Like, do you watch it on YouTube, or do you use Spotify?
If I listen, I listen on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, which is really called iTunes. That's how I choose to listen through iTunes, or YouTube. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I have I guess a back and forth history with podcasts. I prefer video, but whenever, as you know, you're trying to make your own content, you're constantly doing something. There's always something to be done with the podcast, whether it's tagging the episodes or encoding the audio and video, yada, yada, yada. Everyone's falling asleep. There's a lot to do. And so I'd love to watch podcast videos like Joe Rogan Experience. I love those videos, but oftentimes I find myself just listening to the audio. Hands down, my favorite guys, is Bill Burr, Monday Morning Podcast. So if you guys don't have Monday Morning Podcast on your playlist, it's a must.
Hey, is that guy a comedian?
The best of all time.
Look, my shirt's not white. My shirt's not white.
You'll have to listen back to me and Aaron's podcast or episode on his podcast to understand that reference. But yeah, I should have. Come on.
You knew if you brought that up, you knew I'm not letting that escape.
Okay.
You aren't getting away with that.
You got some bite to you, Aaron. I'll give you that. I didn't expect that.
So Well, you brought him up. I
I
never
know, man.
forget. I never forget. Hilarious. You brought him up, man.
Fair
But
enough.
no. But see, that's why guys, on my channel, that's why what I do for you is, since I know that you sometimes like to listen to the audio of a podcast, I put the corresponding episode in the comments of each of my YouTube videos that I've been doing recently. So if you find like you're nodding off during the video, hey, nothing personal. Everybody does it. You can just click on the comments and just pull up the audio file, and then you'll be pulled into my podcast, and you can find the audio too. So I find that I have to share with the audience both, because you have some people who feel that they need to see me, and others who they feel that they need to just listen, and others who just enjoy it both ways. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm just thankful that anybody watches or listens to all these.
me too.
You know,
Me too.
it's really incredible to look back on. It's 2.5 years nearly now.
Yeah.
The first podcast I had, it was just by myself. And I think I told you this in our episode on your podcast. I hated just hearing myself. I hated the dead silence, the inability to form a conversation, because I think out loud and to myself a lot, but vocalizing it, not the best. So then I realized
You have to listen. You just have to listen. You have to spend an enormous amount of time working online, teaching online, talking to the world every day, and becoming overly comfortable with everything that you say. And that's just what you have to do. There's no way for me to sugarcoat it. You just have to practice.
It looks like I'm being very rude right now. I'm trying to turn the Bitly link to your YouTube and Patreon right now.
No worries. Say thank you. No worries. No problem.
So tell us why you started the podcast and YouTube channel. What was your inspiration?
My inspiration was that I'm someone who loves to complain, and I love to educate people. So I felt that there were just not enough podcasts for blind people out there where someone can come up to me and say, "Hey, Aaron, I need to talk about, ABC," right? I felt that there just was not enough content about that, and just not enough podcasts where someone could, come up to me and have that conversation. So I created Aaron's Opinion under a different name. I don't want to say it because I simply don't want to confuse you at home. So let's just say Aaron's Opinion was created about a year ago, last autumn. And I started out doing monologues where you just talk. And then I discovered that the people I'm talking to also have interest in guesting. And then you have to, I built it up, one step, baby steps, until eventually you get all the way onto YouTube and then here. So it takes about a year to really get your feet wet and really become comfortable enough to be able to do interviews and to truly enjoy it. I truly enjoy doing this hobby. So yeah.
And you also started a WhatsApp group amongst your guests, which is a brilliant idea. Now, why'd you do that?
It is.
I think you said you might have borrowed that from someone else.
I did.
Hey,
that
Jason,
was not my idea.
Here. Hey, cousin.
Sure. Hey, how are you? How are you, Jason? Yeah, glad he's doing well, I guess. So that was something that one of my former guests, someone else in the radio industry, suggested I do it, and it was his idea, and it was a great idea. He has since left the group. He just didn't, he just had added different interests and different activities that he was doing. But he let me keep the group, and now I'm the administrator. But it's kind of an odd thing to say, but I don't talk about that directly on my podcast because that's not. It's totally okay, but it's not for listeners to join. It's only for guests who have already guested with me. So if you want to be in the group, then you have to guest with me, and then
so
you're in.
You created
right.
a club
Mm-hmm.
that's exclusive, right? Like you can only be in this club if you join the podcast as a guest.
Yes, that is correct. I don't consider it a club. Thank you. Well, don't thank me. Thank the person who came up with it. Wasn't my idea. I appreciate that. It's not, and for me, that's not even. I mean, you're right. It is brilliant marketing. I thank you. it's also a brilliant way for me to communicate with the my entire podcast as one unit, one collective company, one collective organization
Right.
of content creators and people all over. So I'm not, I mean, you're right, but I don't view it as marketing. I view it as, hey, like, I need to be able to communicate with all of you all at once. And there's only one way to do it. You all are all over the world, but WhatsApp has us covered. Yeah.
Right. Well, there's a difference between marketing for yourself and marketing for the purpose.
That's true. I see. Yeah. Okay. So I guess it kind of is marketing for the purpose of connecting all of the guests of Aaron's Opinion for their own, so that everybody can have a way of meeting everybody else. Yeah, it kind of is marketing. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. To me, like, I think of penicillin. Like, the person who discovered penicillin as an antibiotic, he created it or discovered it, and he could have decided to keep that for himself and for his family, or because he has a good product, and share it, and he's going to profit from that. He profited, financially, of course, but I think from knowing you profit from the experience and the I guess the experience of having
the experience
creating that group. Thank you. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
And knowing that I'm doing the right thing by allowing others to tell their story, and that's really, really valuable.
Yep. Everyone has a story to tell. Some stories are great, and some stories are not so great. But you have to share them because we can all learn from each other. I say great, not so great, as in like experiences. Some are sad, some are good. But the more we share them, the more we have in common, I believe.
Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me check in on the TN. Oh my gosh, dude. He was in my EOD unit with me. How's it going, TN? Still working out like a boss? He is I can't remember exactly where he's from, but he made he's a funny dude. I don't want to say anything without him saying it's okay. But he was a funny dude. A great guy to be around. Let's see here. What other questions can I ask you that would be entertaining for the audience? How about this? How about we discuss what your job is and why you enjoy it?
My job is I'm a teacher of English as a second language. And what that means is that I work with students online who need to come to me to learn English as a second language. Most of the students I teach are from the Middle East, but I've been having a lot of students from all over the world. And I enjoy it because I'm able to know that I'm providing them skills that will help them for the rest of their lives. And it's impossible to tell how many people you can help as long as you give them knowledge. It's really, really fascinating. We have the ability to help a lot of people.
Speaking of that, can you tell us your, what would you call it, your tagline of your podcast? I love it.
Oh, my slogan. Help one person today. Help one person today. Help 1 million people tomorrow.
And that's great. I love it. It's inspiring. It's step by step, right? Can't change the world today.
You can't change in one day, but tomorrow we're going to see the impact. Right.
Exactly. Let's see here. What else? I'm trying to think of something that would catch you off guard, because I caught you off guard on your episode, and now I'm like, now that I have you in my domain, right? Let's see here. What else I can ask you? What about what do you think your being blind, how is that impactful on your family? If you don't mind me asking that, like what's the family experience?
It's a great question. It's a great question. Of course, my parents are supportive. So I come from awesome. It is an overly strict family with supportive parents and a supportive brother. My location is undisclosed. So I live somewhere in the universe. It's a long story. I'll tell you off air. You would love it. It's a long story. My location is undisclosed. I'm kind of an odd bird. I don't really I've never been very sociable, so I've had very few interactions with society, actually. And I think that's something that podcasting has really helped me to do. It's really helped me to be able to reach out to people and be a lot more comfortable having conversations with people. So I think that's really a really important question. I don't know. I see a lot of people in these groups are, oftentimes saying that their families are just not supportive or not understanding. And, if you become blind as an older adult, it's significantly more difficult. And that's a whole nother ballgame.
Okay.
Sure. That's because if you grew up sighted, and then when you're a teenager or you're in your 20s and you have to transition to functioning like a blind person, that's nearly insurmountable for many people. And that's really destructive for a lot. That really disables people until they get used to it. Whereas I was born blind. So, for me, there's nothing to get used to. There's no comparison. See? So.
Huh. So, yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
I actually talked with, you know what, let's pocket that for another second. I don't want to give up another a story, but one of the people you connected me with is going to be on the podcast tomorrow, and he has an amazing story about how he grew up.
He is. Isn't he nice? I know. Great guy. He's great.
Yeah, it's a blessing to have people like that in your life. So,
really
thank you for sharing that blessing. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Back to your family, and of course, every family is different. What is I guess my concern would be that if I had somebody in my family that I was responsible of taking care of, I'm sure your parents may probably help you a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you respond to what responsibilities you want versus things that you ask for help? Like, how do you discern that? Because you've obviously taken a lot of initiative with all the podcasting and YouTube channels. So how do you?
It's a brilliant question. It's very, very difficult to tell. Again, a lot of it's picking and choosing battles and figuring out what's worth. A lot of it is just a trial and error. Figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Well, I feel like there's more of a deeper answer than that, Aaron. Maybe not. Okay.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. Okay. What about traveling? Do you enjoy traveling as a blind person?
I do. I've been all over the world. I lived in England for 3 months studying abroad in university. I've also been to France.
All right, sorry. Lame joke.
What?
You said studying abroad.
Yeah. No, I learned that at one point. For many years of my life, I never knew that word, but so the younger listeners wouldn't know. But then again, only adults should be watching this. But if you're a younger listener who's snuck into the room, abroad is a ancient word for a woman. I didn't know that until you brought it up. I didn't know that until very recently.
Really? Okay. You're right though.
That's
right.
Yeah. That's so yeah. I've also been to France 3 times because my second language is French. My parents and I speak French.
Wow.
I've been to Amsterdam, Germany, Austria, Poland, Czech Republic, a couple other places. I've been to Swaziland in Africa. So I love traveling. Yeah.
Okay, so stupid question, but I'm going to say the first thing that comes off the top of my head, which is dangerous. What's the difference between each place? Like, why do you even travel if you cannot see? What's the purpose?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. Well, in my case, I have some usable vision, so I am able to get some of the visual. That's not a stupid question at all. It's a very sensible question. I am able to see some, so I'm able to get some. I'm able to see like the difference in like architecture and like buildings and like the environment from country to country, place to place. The experience that I think blind people have traveling is that we are able to we are able to have different interactions with people. I mean, for me, the best part about going to France is just having French conversations with people and seeing the different ways that French people interact and react to me. It can be very entertaining and very interesting. So yes, so
Do you tell them
that's
you're
why
an American?
traveling is important. It depends on, actually, that's a good point. It depends on who they are. Sometimes I do, but sometimes I do the best I can in French and kind of put on as much of an act as possible and see how much I can push them. Sometimes they can tell, though, because people they can kind of tell that I'm a foreigner. So I've had French people ask, "Oh, your French is good, but where in France are you from?" And then I have to say, "I'm not from France. I'm from the States, but I learned French." And some of them are very intrigued by that, very interested in that, because they're fed up with Americans coming to France, and then I mean, it's so fed up with Americans, coming over there and they can't even say bonjour. So, that really gets old after a while. Yeah.
Well, I'm
But
American, so wherever I go
very,
is America. That's how I feel. They should speak English if I'm there, right? Aaron, I'm kidding,
yeah.
Aaron. Sarcasm.
In France, good luck. You should go to England. You want to speak English? Go to England. They'd be happy to practice English with you there. But
Well,
France, no, not so much.
it's
Mhm.
not. It's a sign of respect, right? When you go to a foreign country and learn at least what you
I
can,
think,
right?
yeah, I think it depends. It depends on why you're using the language. If you're using the language just to have normal conversations, interact with people, that's fine. It does depend on the why, but usually it's perceived as being respectful to their culture. Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Mr. Derek
Mhm.
Brownfield, which I sincerely hope you have on your podcast. Like this guy's,
Me too.
he's one of my best friends. But he has a question for you. He said, if you could give someone some advice you wish you had when you were first starting your podcast, what would that advice be?
My advice is that you need to know who your audience is. You need to know who your audience is. You need to know who your audience is. And you need to know what you want to do. You need to, practice even using the software. You need to be comfortable on YouTube. You need to practice, listen, learn. And then just rinse, repeat the process over and over again. So you have to be willing to practice the art of podcasting before you get to these types of opportunities.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good point, but it's really hard to. If I had not had already started a podcast, if I was not already in this arena, I would recognize that I've already heard that a lot.
Right.
So, whenever you were breaking this down, can you be more specific about how you went about it? Like, how long did it take you to figure out who your audience was? How long?
Well, I mean, I knew,
details.
sure. I mean, I knew that I wanted to, speak to, the blind community in the United States. And then that, of course, led out to the rest of the world because these support groups on Facebook are globalized. So we have people from all over the groups, all over the world listening. I mean, it's the other thing is to watch the questions that people ask and respond well to the audience when they interact with you. Show some follow through for your audience. That's also a critical thing.
Okay. What's your favorite goal? What's my favorite goal? What's your main goal to accomplish between now and 2022?
Continuously improving Aaron's opinion to a point where it just keeps getting better and better. We just help more and more people globally. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And how would you, when you say help, can you be more specific on that?
Well, to be quite blunt about it, to be quite direct, if I started to have a Patreon following, a group of patrons, some of that support will go to help some of the missions that will truly serve and help blind people around the world. So that's one thing I would like to do.
Okay. Well, speaking of Patreon, tell us about your Patreon. And also, please, anybody who's watching this, I put Aaron through a lot tonight to get him on this podcast. He normally has this whole system where he uses Zoom, and he's perfected it. And I'm on different software, and he's put up with my, we've had some technical difficulties. So I would greatly appreciate anybody who would consider helping Aaron and his effort and his purpose to listen intently to what he's about to share with us.
So my Patreon is right there in the chat. No one has taken me up on it yet, which I do understand. There's not much for me to say about it apart from the fact that it's there. And the other important thing about it is the other very important thing is that becoming a patron is not a requirement to participate in all of the great episodes that I do on Aaron's Opinion. It's not. I do not expect you to participate. It's not. It will never be an expectation for anyone to contribute. And you can be on. You guys can guest with me whether you support it or not.
So a lot of people don't know what a Patreon is.
Sure.
So let's
okay.
start with that.
Oh, okay. That's okay. I didn't quite understand. Okay. Well, Patreon is a platform. It's a legal and lawful way for you at home to support a content creator, like let's say me and Bobby, for instance. Now, I don't know if Bobby has one or not, but no. It would be a legal way for you to support me. And there's different membership levels that you can join, and by doing it, it's a proper and appropriate way of supporting the content that you like to watch. The other way to describe it, it's like a form of monetization. You're kind of watching my show, and kind of like as you leave the theater, you're kind of like throwing money in a box on the way home. You know, it's kind of like that. That's how I would describe
it. The guy who's playing guitar in Nashville, for instance.
Yes, it's similar. Similar. It's similar to a tip jar. Although let's not get that too mixed up, because some podcasting platforms, some hosting companies actually have that terminology. So let's not mix that up, because it's not a tip jar. But it is a similar analogy. Yeah, it's a similar analogy to tipping someone for their work.
Tell me, someone stole a tip jar?
Well, another hosting company already has that feature in their software. So I just mean, let's not use the term. Yeah. Well, what else? Well, what else would you call it? I don't know.
Yeah, it's just like I wish I would have capitalized on that. Like that's you're pretty universal tips.
Well,
that's genius.
Okay. All right. Well, let's capitalize on. Let's put some capitalize on Patreon. You guys can, someone out there. I mean, guys, I would just be so excited. Literally, if only one of you did it, I would just be so excited. So all you need to do is just convince one person to do it, and then none of you else have to do it. Okay, that's the way it works. Okay,
I have a lot of great friends and family. I'm sure somebody will jump in on that.
So. Yeah, so know that I promise that some of the money, my commitment is that some of the money will go to help other blind people. I promise, and I am not. I do not take this lightly. It's a very serious issue on where funds go, and it's not a joke. I'm sure that there have been many times where people have said your money goes to support this, and then the money never goes. So my commitment is. It goes to help people. I promise.
Well, if anybody takes a look at your YouTube channel and doubts where you're putting your time, your extra time outside of work, and what your commitment is, I would be very surprised. It's very obvious. It's evident in how many uploads you have. Like I thought I was killing it the past couple months, and then I looked at yours, and you've been doing what I've been doing for an entire year. So kudos to you. I believe you deserve all the support you can get, and you're doing a great job, and you're connecting people who are making a difference in this world, and hence you are making a difference. So I appreciate you, Aaron.
Well, thank you for that.
I think that's a pretty good place to pause. I know I've had you on here for a while. Are you comfortable with coming back on sometime?
You mean sometime in the future? Yeah, because let me just mute my Yeah, because I do need, I am sorry, but yes, in all honesty, I do need to get going. I think that was
All right.
a great recording. Of course, we should keep doing this. This live business is really cool. I think this is really good because I want to be able to have the interaction with the audience more. So I think this is a lot of fun. This is really cool. Yeah, of course.
Great. Well, Aaron, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And if anybody who's watching this, please be sure to subscribe, like, comment. You guys all know the drill. And also, all the links for Aaron's YouTube channel and his Patreon are in the description below. Thank you very much. God bless America. You guys have a great night. Awkward silence until I